Welcome into Football and Other F Words. My name is Zach Lyons, just fresh off the links. 6 under, baby. Hitting off the blue tees, which is like it's not the pros, and then there's the semi-pros, and then there's the blue tees over at the Gaylord Springs. Beautiful golf course, lots of wild animals, and saw a bunch of deer. But 6 under, not a bogey in sight, just birdies and pars all the way. Couple of beers with the lads. And you know where I also like to get beer when I have to buy it for myself? That is Bluegrass Beverages, Mike. Bluegrass Beverages over in Hendersonville, Tennessee. They have a sister store called Sinkers over in East Nashville. But Bluegrass Beverages is our sponsor for this podcast. It's going to be a spicy podcast, and we have a little thing that we like to do, like I'll drink to that, where we'll talk a little bit more about Bluegrass Beverages. As I butcher all this because I had a few beverages at the golf course. Mike, you write for paulkaharski.com. I write for stackingtheinbox.com. And guess what? They're both subscription sites that are worth the money. Go subscribe to both those websites. You can see Mike Herndon once again, pleading, gushing, just like writing love letters to Jackson Smith-Njigba. I have done that as well since our podcast last week, and apparently we have started a craze where Titans fans just have to have Jackson Smith-Njigba. Are you proud of yourself for that?
Yeah, I am. I'm all in. Look, I'm all JSN.
All JSN. I am with you, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that because we're going to talk about our preferred position in each round later on in the show if there are no trades. But we're also going to talk about Titans fans that are driving us nuts this week, and I have 2 specific call-outs that I have to do. And also, it's something that I talked about with Braden on Monday, but I want to bring it in to get your opinion. Mortgaging the future, and also what's better if the Titans were to trade up? Is it better to give future first-round draft picks or multiple picks in this draft? We'll discuss about that. But first, as always, Big Jeff takes center stage because he is a massive man and he got paid and we don't know any of the contract details yet, and it is driving me nuts. And he decided that, hey, I know that I got paid on Friday and it was announced on last Friday, and I had all weekend to go sign the fucking contract. But he decided that, hey, I am going to make everybody in the media wait 20 to 30 minutes after the designated time to do the press conference. And it was hilarious because I'm golfing, so I don't fucking give a shit. And it was hilarious that is like 20 minutes. Oh, well, he just now signed the contract. And I'm thinking, you had all freaking weekend to do it. So he's just a constant trolling person, and I love it. Initial thoughts on the extension numbers that you were totally wrong about because you totally said that they were going to be over $100 million and blah, 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 blah. And I missed
by all of $6 million.
And that $6 million matters for the scoreboard. That's like saying, oh, we only lost by 1 point. Well, you still fucking lost. And Zach goes 2-0, and all we're waiting on is Tier Tart.
Well, you weren't exactly right on your numbers either. So
I was a lot.
If we're saying a miss is a miss, a miss is a miss.
If it's like Price is Right, I am a lot closer than you were because I've been telling everybody it's not going to be 100 million.
Now close matters.
Now close matters.
All right. No, I think the numbers were lower than I expected. Obviously, I figured he would get 100 million plus. Because
you did it on the YouTube show. You can see my motions when people say that.
I think he's worth more than what he got paid, frankly. So I think he's settled on what really to me is a team-friendly contract. I mean, it's the second highest paid defensive tackle in the game. He beat Daron Payne by $1 million a year. Quinnen Williams will beat his deal. Dexter Lawrence will probably beat his deal.
Do you think they will?
100% Quinnen Williams will. 100%. Zero doubt in my mind.
Okay, we're going to put this on the scoreboard. We're going to put this on the scoreboard. I'm going to put my undefeated record on the line. You don't think
anyone's going to beat Jeffrey Simmons' deal this offseason?
Oh, here's what I'll say is that
Christian Wilkins is up too.
Yeah, well, Christian Wilkins is
I don't think he's going to get that.
I thought his signing bonus was going to be much higher because I think that was like a given. I would have thought you get the signing bonus a lot higher. I think Quinnen Williams and Dexter Lawrence are looking at the Jeffrey Simmons deal and going, what the hell, man? You did not help us out. But now, this could work out in their favor in this sense. Tennessee does not have a state income tax, and I believe New York does, if I'm not mistaken, correct? So that could at least
Yes.
put those guys out in the sense that their numbers are going to look higher, but I think their take home is going to be about the same or less because they're
Take home, yeah. But I think as far as like the APY, basically annual salary per
yeah.
season, I think Quinnen Williams is 100% going to beat Jeffrey Simmons. And look, they've been in the league the same amount of time. Quinnen Williams has 6.5 more sacks than Jeffrey Simmons does. He has 5 more tackles for
Whoa, I can't
loss.
believe you're saying Quinnen Williams is a
4
better player than Jeffrey Simmons.
He has twice as many forced fumbles. I'm not saying
Wow.
he's necessarily a better player, but he's right on the level. And the fact that he's getting
You
paid
just said a
last
bunch
means
of
he's going to
data
get
that
paid
said it
more.
was.
Well, I mean, I'm not. All things aren't equal. Like stats aren't everything. But I'm saying if I'm Quinnen Williams' agent, I am 100% not signing anything that is lower than Jeffrey Simmons' number. Right? That is the absolute baseline. Right?
With
Like I'm
Dexter
going to
Lawrence,
beat
you're
it.
kind of like, okay, well, maybe I shouldn't have said Dexter Lawrence will get more money.
I
You
think
kind of
Dexter
like
Lawrence
that a little bit?
could. I think he could get more money. Actually, I really do. Because I mean, he had 7.5 sacks last year, and like I mean, he's just a monster in the run game. So I wouldn't be surprised if both of them do. I absolutely 100% believe Quinnen Williams.
Weren't
There's
the
no
Jets
chance he's
just
getting
trying to get
less.
rid of Quinnen Williams before the season, though? It feels
No,
like
that
they
was
don't
like
even
2
really
years
like him.
ago. That was like 2 years ago, and I think that was all overblown, anyways. Because
Interesting.
he well, I think it was actually after his rookie season, because after that he really started putting up big numbers, and has been really productive and had a huge season last year with 12 sacks. So I think he's going to get a bigger deal, like 100% for sure.
Were you more surprised by the overall value, the APY, or the signing bonus? Because to me, the signing bonus is like way, way off.
I
I
wasn't
thought the
that
signing bonus was like way off.
I wasn't necessarily that shocked by the signing bonus, just because I
Really?
feel like what they typically do is set, like, say a 4-year deal, and it was what 94 million was the total.
Yeah.
They usually do like the signing bonus is basically the replacement for that first year's salary, right? Because that's how they
Yeah.
set it up. They do that. The first year is really low salary, and then they, go to the regular salary numbers after that. So I feel like that's about what I expected it to be, from a signing bonus standpoint, but the total and the per year numbers are a little bit lower. I guess him signing a 4-year deal. I mean, he won't be a free agent again until he's 30, right? I mean, or
Yeah, he'll
close
get
to
traded before then, though.
it. Well, possible.
Just like they're trying to trade Kevin Pyard. So
Oh, right, yeah, it is the Titans way, but
yeah,
it's I mean, to me, it's a good deal for the Titans. It's a no brainer. They had to bring him back. Like we talked about it earlier in the offseason. The one thing that would have made sense for the Titans to consider not re-signing Jeffrey Simmons, the only way would have been if they were getting a franchise quarterback, and that they had to put him in the deal. Like that they didn't have a choice. Obviously, it'd be better to get your franchise quarterback and have Jeffrey Simmons. But if you had to force me to choose, I would choose the franchise quarterback. Otherwise, this is a great deal. It's one of the best defensive players in the game, regardless of position. Definitely one of the best interior defenders. I mean, once Aaron Donald finally retires, which I mean, wouldn't actually surprise me if that was sooner rather than later, because the Rams are going to be god awful this season. It's going to be him and Quinnen Williams and Chris Jones and that group that's kind of right under Donald right now for best defensive tackle in the game, and that's a great piece to have as like a. And Paul Korsky's been using this term, tent pole kind of guy. Like, even if you are rebuilding, you still need to have these, kind of foundational pieces in place. And Simmons definitely is one. And we'll talk a little bit more about why the whole. We'll get into another topic off of this later, but this is a guy that you pay, like works hard, has been a great leader for the team, has been super productive, has fought through injuries to stay on the field. His press conference, he alluded to, basically playing with a pretty bad ankle injury for most of the back half of last season. I think his production showed that. I don't think that's any news to anybody, but he's the kind of guy that you want to pay. He's still young. He's still only 25, I think. So I'm all in on this deal from a Titan standpoint.
Let me ask you a question because Braden brought this up, and I think he's absolutely crazy. And I think you're going to agree with me based on tweets, based on your article. He thinks it was if you had to choose, which we know beyond a shadow of a doubt, you did not have to choose between A.J. Brown and Jeffrey Simmons. Okay, we've talked about it, we've covered it, but John Robinson, in his mind, made it an either-or option because ego got in the way of his negotiations with A.J. Brown on both sides. However, if you had to choose, Braden said with a gun that he would choose the defensive tackle over the wide receiver because the defensive tackle is harder to find. And I said, yeah, that may be true, but the wide receiver is more impactful because Jeffrey Simmons or a defensive tackle can be replaced by multiple parts. The wide receiver has proven to be the more valuable thing when you look at the playoffs all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I think the wide receiver is the more valuable position. And look, if Jeffrey Simmons was let's say Myles Garrett, I think maybe you'd have a little bit more of an argument in value there. Not to say that defensive tackles aren't as necessarily as valuable as edge rushers.
Or if he is
I think
Quinnen Williams.
Can be. No, I think Jeffrey Simmons is as good a player as Quinnen Williams. I think they were about equal. But anyways,
Jets fans are loving you right now, by the way. They're like, oh, man, this guy thinks that Quinnen Williams is as good as Jeffrey Simmons. I'm all about that.
I don't think that's a hot take at all. Like,
you don't
that's
think so?
not
I
a
think
hot
that's
take.
a little...
No.
Okay.
I think you find a lot of people that believe Quinnen Williams is better, honestly.
Oh.
But anyways, I'm not getting sidetracked by that anymore. Anyways, what was I even talking? Oh, wide receiver. Yeah, wide receiver to me is such an important part of the offense. I think in what I wrote for Paul Kowarski's site this week, I really went into like the numbers of the clear impact that A.J. Brown had and Corey Davis for that matter, and Jonnu Smith for that matter on the Titans offense. And it's very clear, like as those pieces started to erode, the offensive numbers just cratered. And yes, like there was the Todd Downing thing, and yes, there was other context around it. But if you go and look at other players on other teams, good wide receivers come, the quarterback numbers go way up. Like it just is what has happened.
Well, I mean, isn't that what happened with Josh Allen? I mean,
it's what happened with Josh Allen. It's what happened with Joe
Oh.
Burrow. It happened with Jalen Hurts. It happened with Matthew Stafford. Matthew Stafford leaves the Lions and goes to the Rams, and all of a sudden he's putting up much better numbers and winning a fucking Super Bowl. It is very clear how important wide receiver talent is to the team's performance as a whole and the offense specifically, especially nowadays. And you look at the teams that traded for all the wide receivers this past offseason. The Dolphins got a lot better on offense. Obviously the Eagles got a lot better on offense with A.J. Brown. Now you could argue, I guess the Raiders didn't get a lot better, but I'm not totally sure how much we should count the Raiders in all this. But there's so many more examples of elite wide receivers being very impactful on the quarterback success, and that is the most important person to have successful on your team is the quarterback. So I to me, wide receiver is such a valuable position. I've never been more convinced of that fact than I am now. And I think that's going back to Jackson Smith and Jigba. That's why I'm writing Jackson Smith and Jigba love letters, is that the Titans need to surround whoever they're playing at quarterback, whether it be Tannehill, who has proven he can put up a top 5 scoring offense with good wide receivers around him, or a young quarterback of the future, whether it be from this year's class or next year's class. They need to be surrounded with good weapons to have success. So I am 100% going back to Jackson Smith and Jigba here, but
right. I mean,
that's
but
the
it boils
that's the
down
positional
to, though,
argument, right?
like people were like, well, isn't it better just to trade for a wide receiver? And I'm like, no, that's not what, because there's that graph that PK tweeted out and all that stuff. That's not what it's saying. What it's technically saying is pay your fucking wide receivers, right?
Yes.
like draft them, develop them, pay them, keep them.
And
That is essentially what it's saying.
And out of those top 10 guys, because that chart you're referencing, it's in the article that I wrote for Paul Karski. So if you haven't seen it, you can go see it there. It basically says there are 0 of the top 10 paid wide receivers in the NFL right now were acquired in free agency. All of the 6 of them were traded for, 4 of them were drafted outright. One of the interesting things actually is that none of the 4 that were drafted outright were first round picks. All of them were like second or third round picks, basically. But the 6 that were traded were all traded for basically a first round pick value or more, with the exception of DeAndre Hopkins. And that's only because Bill O'Brien is completely incompetent as a general manager. So I think it's very clear, like, if you're going to trade for one, you're going to pay a premium price, because not only do you have to give up a first round pick, but you also have to pay him a $25 million a year contract now. So to me, drafting a wide receiver, there's huge value in being able to find homegrown elite wide receivers that you do not have to give up additional draft picks to go find. And you get to control them for the years when they're actually at their best, which are when they're, 23, 24, 25 years old, and they still have all their burst and everything like that. So go draft elite wide receivers, Rand Carthon, please.
I agree. And we'll get to our discussion about drafting wide receivers later. I'd like to talk about a little comment that just popped up into the chat. And Mike, if you'll give me a second, is from Hillbilly Bryn, who said, "Hey, slap nuts, take your sunglasses off. You look like a Jaguars fan. Holy shit." And I would like to say to Hillbilly Bryn, go fuck yourself.
It is funny that's coming. That comment is coming from somebody with a profile pic of him wearing glasses inside.
Yes,
from what it appears.
Speaking of wide receivers and getting your wide receiver room better, the Titans are bringing in for a visit Chris Moore, the second leading receiver for the Houston Texans last year. So he was just behind Brendan Cooks in terms of receiving yards, and I love this visit. Just because it is driving everybody up the fucking wall. It's making everybody insane. And I am so glad that they brought him in for a visit and everybody instantly overreacted. Chris Moore is a 30-year-old wide receiver, if you didn't know. So he checks the box off of Mike's list of, I gotta have a veteran in the room. That's you.
No, hang on. And because I've clarified this in the comments, exactly where I was getting at with that comment. It wasn't that I just needed an old wide receiver in the room. It was that I needed somebody with some skins on the wall that, like, Treylon Burks would fucking listen to, and that whoever they draft this year would fucking listen to. They aren't going to listen to fucking Chris Moore. Like, Treylon Burks is going to be like, who the fuck is this guy? Like, is this NWI's twin or what is this?
So, like, yeah, I mean, he is the ghost of Nick Westbrook-Akine future, right? I mean, like, he's the ghost of Christmas future. Like, all it is bringing this guy in for a visit, by the way. He hasn't been signed. Everybody's acting like he's already signed. And even if he is signed, and I understand everybody's like, well, this is your wide receiver too if he's signed. Yeah, if fucking injuries happen again. Like, isn't this all boiled down to basically every Titans analyst, fanalist, media member, fan just banking on that there's going to be fucking injuries all over again? And maybe that's a good bet to make. But at the end of the day, if they were going to make a move, they should have made it earlier. Like, at this point, anybody they sign, I'm just like, well, fuck it. Because if they sign Chris Moore, they still need to draft 2 wide receivers in the NFL draft. I'm not concerned that Chris Moore is going to be here. Do they think that? Probably not. But that's what they should be thinking, because at the end of the day, Chris Moore is battling it out with Nick Westbrook-Akine in camp, not Treylon Burks and Kyle Phillips and a rookie wide receiver, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I don't look when they re-signed Nick Westbrook-Akine, I told people not to freak out because they basically signed him to a veteran minimum deal that he could be cut from at the end of camp and it wouldn't hurt them. Like, it just doesn't matter. And I would imagine Moore would be signed to a similar deal if he is signed. So I am not going to freak out about it. And
Mm,
it doesn't matter. It's one of those signings that I feel like it doesn't really matter if he's on the team or not. I guess it gives them a competent
I mean, isn't he just Chris
guy.
Conley?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, he's just a guy that you could like put out there and like he's not gonna embarrass himself.
Hey, he won me a couple of fantasy football games
Well,
in our.
that's a sad state of affairs
It
if you have to
is. Hey,
start
listen, but I got him
Chris
when he went
Moore.
off for like 120 yards that one game. You know, it's just all about timing, my friend, in fantasy
Yeah,
football.
yeah. I just I don't think anyone should care about this either way. Like whatever
That's how I
happens, it
am.
is what it is.
Okay,
Their wide
he
receiver
doesn't
2
move
is
the
in the draft,
needle.
I think.
He doesn't move the needle. Was really let's be honest here. We have talked about wanting Jacoby Myers. We have talked about Paris Campbell. We have talked about wanting these guys that signed for other
Yeah,
deals, and some of them were modest deals. But at the end of the day, the Titans have to draft wide receivers. They need to develop wide receivers. They
yeah.
need to do what San Francisco does. San Francisco drafts wide receivers and tries to develop them, and that should be the game plan. If they sign Chris Moore, that's great. If Chris Moore and Nick Westbrook-Kine are your starting wide receivers at any point, it's not because they beat out anybody. It's because people dropped like flies ahead of them.
Again,
Why can't people separate those two and make the distinction in the context?
that's because every signing has to be an all pro or it's terrible trash. That's kind of the way it goes.
All right. So before we get into some our other fan comments that are flooding our mentions, I would like to go a little bit positive and do a I'll drink to that. So I'll drink to that is a segment where it could be football, it could be sports, it could be just anything you want. Positive thoughts only, and is sponsored by Bluegrass Beverages. Join the in crowd and also listen to a football show. There are still a handful of tickets left for the draft show where it's all you can eat, all you can drink for the first round of the NFL draft. I'll be there. Stoney will be there. Braden will be there. Other people will be there. It's going to be fun. Apparently, I'm hosting like a quiz show, a Q&A. I'm doing private readings, poetry readings, maybe like a few like table reads of TV shows. I don't know, because Braden just throws all the shit out there all the time. And I'm just like, I guess I'm doing that too. But it's going to be awesome. It's going to be at a private function, huge ass TV. It's going to be a blast, and all the proceeds go to a good cause. So join the in crowd, subscribe to a football show, and make sure that you go to a football show on Monday and last Thursday for the link. I asked for the link for Braden to put it in here, but I did not get it. So tough shit, I guess. But the in crowd is a special club that you could join for both bluegrass and sinkers, and they give you all this information about future batches, special edition liquors that you can get. So since you went first last week, my I'll drink to that is gonna come into the betting world, my friend, and I want to talk about the odds that I saw this morning that just made me so happy, and they are so positive. The Texans are tied with the Colts as the favorite to draft Will Levis at plus 250 odds, and Titans are plus 800, which is the fourth team. And this is after Will Levis the news broke that he was coming to visit, so none of the odds shifted. The Titans are still the fourth team, and I'm all in. So I'll drink to that Will Levis has shifted down to the fourth spot. And I want to say real quick that the guy that covers Kentucky for The Athletic was on Robbie and Rex Road, or the Homertown Boys, as they're now been dubbed, the Homertown Boys. But there are a few things I want to talk about Will Levis real quick. I'll drink to that I am glad that the Titans are not the odds-on favorite. One, he said that he endeared himself to teammates because the way he gave up his body to make plays. Yeah, that's what I want. A guy that's going to get fucking injured again. So I'm out. I'm glad that Will Levis is not that guy. Secondly, Will Levis had a tough time because he had 4 different coordinators throughout his college career. Well, he's about to be on his 5th. So again, I am very glad that this loser is the 4th betting on it. And I really hope he's not on this team because I've really hammered it home that I do not want Will Levis on this team. But I'll drink to that. 4th best odds. I'll drink to that. And this one says by William Faulkner. My own experience has been that the tools I need for my trade are paper, tobacco, food, and a little whiskey. So I'll drink to that.
I'm not doing liquor today.
All right, that's on you.
All right. So mine is going to be really pretty simple and straightforward this time. It's Jeffrey Simmons being a Titan for the next 5 years, and the fact that the Titans actually got this done ahead of time. We don't have to go through for us as pseudo media people, right? We don't have to talk about Jeffrey Simmons and his contract situation at the draft, at mandatory minicamp, at OTAs, at training camp. We don't have to go through this whole saga. And is he going to show up? Is he not? Is he?
We don't have to do it at Mother's Day dinner, Father's Day dinner, my birthday dinner. I mean, we just don't have to
do so many events and functions that we are not going to have to talk about Jeffrey Simmons' contract at. And it's a selfish one. That is maybe the reason I'm most excited about this deal being done is that I don't have to talk about it anymore. I don't have any people asking me about it. I don't have anybody saying, going in my DMs and saying they have secret news that they can share with me for a fee. I am just excited to be done with it. So I'll drink to that.
I'll drink to that. And Stoney Keeley says that he'll drink to the Brady Daniels tape. And we'll talk a little bit. Maybe we'll mention Brady Daniels a little bit later. But that is a guy that Titans have shown a little bit of interest in this pre-draft process. Hey, all right. Now that you got a good earful of me drinking that whiskey.
Now, who else the Titans have reportedly shown some interest in? Another player with back injuries, Dalton Kincaid. Apparently,
yes.
Schefter said that he has visited or spent significant time with several teams, including the Titans.
Oh, interesting. I'll have to put that on the list because as of right now, from my research, we know of, including today adding Cam Smith to the list, 17 of the 30 top 30 visits. So it's pretty good. That's a pretty good list. And I'll be writing about it later this week. I know how much the 49ers have valued or not valued the top 30 visits because I did my research. I went all the way back through 2017, baby. Did my research thanks to 49ers, I think webzone.com for that because they're the only, apparently the only team site or team, basically fan site covering the team that actually knows how to do these. A little side note here, a little side rant going down this path. If when I look for a top 30 list, and Titans Wire does this, Titan Size does this, everybody does this when you do their tracker. I don't want to see pictures, and I don't want to see of everyone that's really big, and I don't want to see the tweets. Just put them top 30, then put all the names, and just type it out. Like, I don't need all this other fucking stuff.
And if you want to credit the source, because I do think that's a good idea, just link the Twitter. Link the tweet to the name. That way you just click it and see, okay, that's where it came from.
And I know I run a Titan site myself, technically, stackinginbox.com, and you work for paulkarski.com. But I will do this probably in future years. It's just like I'm doing so much right now, I can't do this right. Like, this format is ridiculous. Get a grip yourselves, you idiots. All right. Speaking of idiots, these fans drive me nuts, Mike. And one of the fans driving me nuts the most, it comes off the talks of the Jeffrey Simmons contract. And we talked about it a little bit on a football show on Monday. But I put out the tweet because you lied to your followers when you were talking about void years on a tweet and said, oh, there'll probably be void years. Well, you can only do 5, dumbass. Anyway, any bonus signing, restructure, option, etc., that could be prorated can only be prorated for a max span of 5 years. Blah, 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 blah. This guy, Nick Vinson, at Nick_Vinson, Vinson. I do respect his avatar because it's like old school blue beast from the X-Men. So I do respect his avatar. But all of a sudden on this particular tweet, because I had other Jeffrey Simmons tweet, he says, "What a bunch of idiots." So I send a GIF like, who the fuck is the idiot? Like, I don't understand who's the idiot. And he goes so I say, what? And he goes, the contract is horrible for a team in the mess the Titans are offensively. And I go, you don't know any of the cap hits or details outside the basic stuff. It will actually help 2023 and be a very modest cap hit compared to their salary cap in 2024. It won't prevent anything. So I get into this long argument, and then in the middle of the argument, I like to go see what this guy's talking about in the tweets and replies section. And all he has done is badmouth this contract, badmouth the idea of paying your best players in every fucking tweet. It doesn't matter if you're Steffi96 at FWordsPod, the Titans official Twitter account. It doesn't matter who you are. This guy found your tweet and replied to it. And I tried to explain to him numerous times, like grab a hold of him and shake him like I'm a British nanny with a baby. That is an old school reference, by the way. I tried to tell him this helps in 2023. This helps in 2024 when the cap hit is, or the cap space for the Titans is 100 million plus minimum currently. It does not prevent them from getting offensive players. Now, do I agree that they could have got better offensive players in free agency? Maybe. Do I feel that they need to do other stuff in the offense in the draft? Yes. This doesn't prevent any of that. It is a currently a great contract for the team. It's a team-friendly contract, and this guy just didn't fucking get it, and it drove me nuts.
Yeah, it is a team-friendly contract. It's not a bad contract. It's not restricting them in any way, shape, or form. Like, look, there's nobody out there for them to spend their money on currently that is realistically available. I mean, if you want, look, I think Lamar Jackson's headed back to the Ravens. I've kind of felt that way the whole time. So
I know. We're going to look like
aside.
Fucking genius for that, by the way.
Let's set that aside for a minute and just say, who are you spending money on? Who are you going to go spend this money on? Which, by the way, you would have less money if you didn't sign this extension for Jeffrey Simmons. Like, it created cap space for this year. And obviously it'll eat into cap space in the next few years. But they, again, like you said, they have over $100 million of cap room next year. And that's with Simmons' deal in there, or it'll be somewhere around $100 million with Simmons' deal in there. And look, they're going to get rid of some of these other, contracts at some point too. I mean, there are expensive players that will come off the books and everything like that, but they are not going to be handicapped in any way, shape, or form moving forward after this season, because it's going to be a blank slate at quarterback. It's going to be a blank slate at running back. It's going to be basically a blank slate on the offensive line. I mean, there's not going to be anybody on that offensive line that they couldn't release for, cap savings at that point. Nobody at tight end they're paying. The offense is a blank slate because the offense got old very fast. Like, the offense got old. The offense got expensive. The expensive guys are getting cut now. Lawan, Saffold, all that stuff. So that is the reason for the way that they are currently balanced offensively versus defensively. They had a young defense. It's getting better. And those guys are getting paid. They may still pay some more defenders, right? I mean, like, they could still, we'll see on Christian Fulton. I would say right now, I'd be surprised if he's back. But if he has a great year,
why not spend a little bit of money? And listen, I'll be honest, because of this year, the way that 2023 is built and the way the roster is constructed, why not spend a little bit of money on Frank Clark? Isn't that the better way to find success at this point in free agency, is to sign defensive players? Like, why not sign a little bit of Frank Clark? Get him a little here.
I'm not a big Frank Clark guy, I guess.
Personally, I don't like Frank Clark, but on the field, he's very good.
He is talented. I would rather do like a Justin Houston or something like that. I guess if I was going to go down that route. But there are guys out there that you could sign that would help. But Yeah, I mean, look, I mean, there's still offensive players too, like Dalton Reisner is still out there, and
Yep.
there's a few others that are
But
still
the
sitting around.
Titans signed Jeffrey Simmons, so they can't afford anybody else. That's what Nick Vincent says. And this whole strategy of paying your best player that are top of their game and elite is the stupidest thing to do ever. And he made sure to tell about 30 people of it. The other guy that is driving me nuts off the wall right now is anytime I may bring to light a Will Levis factual tweet. Okay, so it's not even really my tweet. It's even if I bring up the name Will Levis, because today Zach Hicks put up the top quarterbacks on passes of 20 plus air yards. And I already knew Will Levis sucked because I already wrote about it in this particular category. And he was way below average in 2021 as well, where he threw 6 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, by the way. So most of his interceptions came on deep yards. And I just said, LOL at Levis. Like, it was pretty funny. McElroy 11 at McElroy. And I don't understand how he spells McElroy in the second one. Oh, yeah. McElroy Cullen on Twitter is a Kentucky fan who has accused me of having UT bias, by the way, which I am not a UT fan, is a
I do love
Kentucky
that.
fan. And he says, average time to throw, 2 true freshman wide receivers as his best weapons, and context matters once again to these Levis haters. LOL, it's starting to be Coke weird, honestly. I don't know what Coke weird is. I guess like cocaine weird or something. I don't know. And I go, he sucked at it last year too, talking about 2021. And at the end of the day, I am tired of people saying that 2022 is everybody else's fault. And then if you bring up 2021, they go back to 2022. He wasn't very good in 2021. This idea, and at this point, I have muted both Nick Vincent. I am muting McElroy Cullen until after the draft because I am sick of people getting in my mentions and just going crazy when they're obviously wrong. They're just obviously wrong.
I mean, I understand some of the interest in Will Levis just from the fact of like he's big, strong, and
Well, to be
whatever.
honest
But
with you, though, big strong. What did JT O'Sullivan say on the Mina Kimes podcast this past week?
oh yeah, so he's
He
too
said
jacked.
that he is too jacked, and that is horrible for a quarterback like him. And in fact, he is number 4, and Hendon Hooker would be number 4 on his all quarterback list because I watched him ranking the quarterback prospects. If Hendon Hooker didn't have the ACL tear, and I definitely agree with all that.
Yeah, and look, and I think we've talked about Hooker in recent pods here too, and I think there's some stuff. But look, if you're a Vols fan and you're wondering why people are not higher on Hendon Hooker, just go read Ted Wynn's article on the Athletic. I think it might have been today that it went up.
Ooh, I'm gonna have
But
to do that.
he wrote on Hooker and why the offense is such it
That
makes it
was today.
really hard to project him. And look, it comes down to like the exact things that we've been talking about. This offense doesn't exist at the NFL level. And it most of the time he was locked into one receiver the whole way. Like the receiver could go a few different ways and he had to kind of read it out that way, but he was locked into one guy. There was very few like actual progression reads. There was certainly not any like full field progression reads. So like those kind of things, the idea that Hooker's going to step in and immediately be an NFL guy to me are ridiculous. Setting aside the ACL injury, so I think you're looking at a learning curve with him, and he may not ever get there. And I like him. I think he's a great kid. I think he does have a skill set. I will personally be rooting for him to succeed, despite my I guess skepticism that he will.
So you're a Homertown boy.
I am a Homertown boy.
I love that Joe Rexrode and Robbie have been described as that, and it's my favorite thing because hearing it live, them say that they called the Homertown boys yesterday morning or Tuesday morning on the show was just it's perfect. It's fantastic, and they should lean into it more.
I like it.
What has been bothering you in your mentions? Is there any fans besides the 2 kind of fans that I've covered that is bothering you? Is it the guy that today said that the pass catching running back is more valuable than a wide receiver?
Oh yeah, that was a good one. Almost forgot about that one. Yeah, it was in a I think it was in a reply about Jackson Smith and Jigba because that's really been all I've been tweeting about lately. And he said something about like
Here it
on
is.
the
Here it is.
list of the
I got
players
it.
that you need ahead of them. Okay.
Okay. This is Lauderdale 4M, M Lauderdale on Twitter. Receiver is maybe the 5th most important position on this team. And I guess in the NFL, it's left OT. So instead of saying left tackle, he said left offensive tackle, which is great. Shutdown corner is number 2. Then quarterback game manager. So let's start this off real quick. Elite quarterback is nowhere on the list. So elite quarterback is not on the list.
You got to line up your left tackle first, and then you figure out who your quarterback
Well,
is.
you got to do your left tackle first, your left offensive tackle first, and then you got to do your shutdown corner, and then you got to find a quarterback game manager, not a elite quarterback, just quarterback game manager.
Just a manager.
Number 4 is a ground pounding running back at number 4.
That was my favorite run. The ground pounding. I just think, damn it!
The guy who gets tackled in the backfield, just like shit. I can't believe I just pounds the ground. Ground pounding running back, or maybe he just has a ground fetish. Number 5 is then number 1 receiver tight end. Like number 1 receiver doesn't even get its own tier. It's number 1 receiver / tight end, but move the chains type. This is what it says. Number 1 receiver / tight end, move the chains type. So not your deep threats, not your guy that is elite at all 3 levels of the field. Your number 1 receiver better be fucking Tajay Sharp out there.
That's right. Yeah. Can we get like 10 Frank Wychecks out here?
What a ridiculous tweet.
One of the most ridiculous I've ever received. The idea that a left tackle and a corner are higher on the priority list than a quarterback for one is crazy. The thing that maybe offended me more than anything was the ground pounding running back being ahead of the number 1 wide receiver. Like what is that? Like I don't understand whatsoever. It makes zero sense. So yeah, people that
he just joined Twitter in January 2023.
Honestly, it was kind of great entertainment. So maybe I shouldn't complain that much about it. But for a minute, there was like smoke coming out of my ears, going, "What the fuck?"
And I just like if you're on YouTube, I just put like dirt in my eye, so I'm like crying a little bit.
Crying.
Well, I was crying laughing, but I wiped away the tears from crying laughing and created like real actual tears. No elite quarterback. Like, does he? I don't get this list because there's no elite quarterback, no pass rusher, no defensive tackle.
Not even an option,
Just game manager. Like, this guy wants to make sure that you have 5 yards per reception and 2 yards per rush. Like, that's what he wants on this whole thing. And this is the most ridiculous tweet. Is there another tweet that you have?
I do have one more that I'm still confused as to what they were getting at. It's from that same tweet where I tweeted out my article on Jackson Smith and Jigba, but
at paulkarski.com, by the way.
It's Echo Adrian in the comments there. Crying emoji. To be honest, after what you did to Malik, it's probably best you don't find another quarterback. What did I do to Malik, first of all? And even if you're referring to as the Titan somehow, what did they fucking do to Malik besides give him a chance to start some games and then realize he sucked and put a better quarterback in for him?
That's your fault.
What did anybody do to Malik? Nobody did anything to Malik.
Well, I'll be honest. You did trash Malik on the Mike Herndon show that I was a part of, and I tried to tell you that it was not his fault that Jeff Swaim sucks, but you say that it is his fault. But
hey, Jeff Swaim looked a lot better when Josh Dobbs came in.
Listen, this Malik Willis conversation, the Titans don't like the current Titans regime. from the coaching staff all the way up to the general manager, do not like Malik Willis as a quarterback. That has nothing to do with him as a person. I know that Titans fans and certain Titans podcasts that are ill, maybe terminally ill, Titans podcast, they don't understand that disliking a quarterback is not the same as disliking a person, the person that the quarterback is. It's been that way since Marcus. Marcus has left just a stain on this fan base that cannot be washed up, where people cannot separate the person from the quarterback. And Malik Willis is carrying that torch for Marcus. And I will say this, that yes, Malik Willis had a less than ideal situation that he walked into. But if you look at what he does, like with a microscope or whatever, like through a toilet paper holder hole or whatever you want to look at, not a good quarterback. Yeah, he is not a good quarterback. Like, you can watch him miss people because he is not a very good quarterback, and that's okay. And he could be a good person. And when he goes and does great things at whatever church he youth pastors at, it will be fucking fantastic. And props to him. I'll be so happy for whatever nonprofit organization that he ends up working at. Okay.
I do think like the whole Malik genre, it's a very small subsection, right? Like, of the Titans fan base. That is
it though? Because I feel like it is the same amount of subsection around the Marcus stuff.
No, it's smaller. It's smaller. They might be louder, but they're smaller, I feel like. But they're super annoying because, look, Marcus, for all of his faults, at least showed that he could be like a starting level NFL quarterback at one point. Malik has never shown that, to this point, and hasn't even come close yet. And look, and we've been consistent on this. Nobody's writing him off or saying that his career is done. We're just saying that he has not shown anything that you should be banking on him being a starter at any point down the road. If it happens, it is a pleasant surprise, and that's how the Titans should be treating it, and that's how the fans should be treating it. So these people that freak out every time, you mentioned the Titans looking at a quarterback prospect. Of course they're looking at quarterback prospects. If you think they should just roll with Malik Willis as a quarterback of the future based on what you've seen, you're insane. And I'm glad you're not running the Titans.
Essentially, Malik Willis, his career right now is capped at being a backup quarterback. Does not necessarily mean that his career in the NFL is over. It's just probably not going to be a starting quarterback. And look, I said about Malik Willis pre-draft is that you have to change the philosophy of the offense. He's the philosophy changer. You can't put him in the same thing. So I'm not surprised he didn't succeed. But on top of that, he did himself no favors. He didn't even try to adapt. He didn't try to do anything. So I'm not surprised at that point that if you're going to fail to adapt to your surroundings, and listen, I'm not saying it's for lack of trying. I'm just saying he just can't do it at this point. For this particular offense, but he's not going to go to another offense and suddenly fucking light it up. Like, you have to understand that Malik Willis is like lighting it up is probably like 150 yards through the air, a couple touchdowns, and like a couple of rush touchdowns in like mop up duty or something. It's not going to ever be a 300, 400 yard passer, which is what the Titans need to be, which takes us to our next point. I know this podcast is going really long, but thank you for bearing with us.
As we are wont to do.
We have been talking about how the Titans have kind of been been signing players that are known pass blockers over known run blocking. And then on top of that, the guys they are looking at, all the offensive linemen that they're looking at besides two, are better pass blockers over better run blockers. This ties into recently reports from Mike Silver, from other sources, and it keeps on building, that the Titans are trying to move away from Derrick Henry. And they're trying to trade him. And doesn't it kind of make sense that with the offensive line they're building, with the offensive line prospects they're looking at, with the way the Titans are kind of moving away from San Francisco never had the legit lead running back, right? I mean, they never had a workhorse running back. It's always been running back by committee. Doesn't it make sense that guys may need to get Derrick Henry out there? Like, I feel like he's spending a lot of time in Dallas, which he normally does, but he's spending a lot of public time in Dallas. And I feel like Jerry Jones is looking at Derrick Henry in Dallas at Dallas Mavericks games, which there won't be anymore because they didn't even make the fucking playoffs because they suck.
Yeah, they're pitiful.
They're a pitiful team, and they should probably move out of Dallas because I wouldn't even want to be a Dallas Mavericks fan.
Careful.
Be horrible to be a Dallas Mavericks fan, not a Memphis Grizzlies fan.
Careful. Anyway, Bama Brad's going to freak out. We're talking basketball.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. I got to bring us back. Veering back into it. But anyway, Derrick Henry's been there. Jerry Jones probably gave him those tickets, by the way.
Yeah, maybe.
I think that Dallas makes a lot of sense on multiple levels. And I think everybody needs to embrace that with Ryan Tannehill, Derrick Henry, and Kevin Byard, something has to give, right? Something. I don't know what it is, and I think Derrick Henry is the likeliest thing to give.
I kind of do too, because I think you're right. And whenever you pointed out I think you had the list of all of the offensive linemen that the Titans have been linked with.
I haven't put it out publicly, just in our chat.
Okay, so
as soon as they put that out, they looked at Anthony Bradford, who is again a better run blocker than pass blocker.
Okay, so they kind of.
But it's those two.
It's still pretty Bradford. Overwhelming the numbers. So I do think it looks like they are trying to set the groundwork for becoming more of a passing offense, maybe more of a modern offense. Even some of the comments, regarding Tim Kelly and the transition from Downing to Kelly and all that. Like, I think they are laying some groundwork there for a little bit of a move in focus for the offense. Now, I'm not saying they're going to become the Chiefs or anything like that, but a shift back maybe towards the middle.
Wouldn't that kind of tie into trying to interview Eric Bieniemy and Matt Nagy?
Yeah, I think that and what was the word? That Vrabel was reportedly fascinated with the Chiefs' offense, or had a lot of interest with the Chiefs. I think it's Jeremy Fowler,
let me say this: get a fucking quarterback.
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah. And they're spending a ton of time vetting the quarterbacks in this class and everything like that. So I do think, and there's been all the smoke around Derrick Henry and whatnot. I think it would make sense if they could get a decent pick back. Look, and I mentioned this today. I can't help but feel that they're going to end up taking more players in the draft than they have picks right now. Like, I think they're going to find a way to get more picks. And whether that's trading back and getting more picks or trading a veteran for picks, I think they're going to get some more picks and have some more young players to bring in. Because when a new GM comes in, that's usually what you want, right? Like, you kind of phase out the old guys and you bring in the new guys that you want and fit what your vision is. And while Vrabel obviously has some say in the vision and probably had some say with Robinson as well, to some level at least, I think that we are going to see a transition, and it makes a ton of sense to move off of Henry. Like, I know people don't want to hear that, and that people are emotionally attached to Henry, but Henry is a 30-year-old running back at this point that is, if he's not already in decline, which I think he is, I think he's pretty clearly in decline.
Yeah, just real quick. If he went to Dallas like Eddie George,
it would be kind of funny, yeah.
It would be kind of funny, right? Like, it's kind of funny.
I'll say this, though. From Dallas standpoint, it almost doesn't make sense to me from a Dallas standpoint because they have Tony Pollard. Their offense is much, much better when they have Tony Pollard in there because Tony Pollard.
But they got rid of the offensive coordinator who wanted to use Tony Pollard, and now they have Mike McCarthy,
who has vowed to be more of a.
Oh, and Brian Schottenheimer. Don't you like Brian Schottenheimer and Derrick Henry and Jerry Jones? My wife just pulled up in the driveway and then she just fucking left. I don't know where she's going. But either way, it's just kind of hilarious that this is what you get when you sign Brian Schottenheimer, right? You get Derrick Henry.
I mean, maybe it does make sense. But yeah,
but Henry, I mean, like Brian Schottenheimer and Greg Williams would be great as offensive and defensive coordinator here for the Titans.
Yeah, right. Innovative offensive minds. But moving Henry does make sense, especially if you can get a
Mhm.
pick and get a young foundational piece somewhere else. I mean, look, what we've seen over and over and over again, running backs just don't move the needle that much from a success standpoint for the team. Because even look at the Panthers last year. The Panthers traded away Christian McCaffrey. They got better. They got better as the year went on. Deontay Foreman was excellent for them. They even had Chuba Hubbard putting up, some numbers for them. So you can find running backs. You can plug them in. Going and getting some value for Derrick Henry, I think, makes a ton of sense. And frankly, I do feel like that at times Vrabel and the Titans coaching staff has almost used Henry as a crutch. And we've talked about this before again, but I think it's worth mentioning it once more that he's there and you almost feel like you're obligated to use him. You're obligated to get him these touches because he can break those big ones. Well, he didn't break the big ones last year, right? Like those big ones disappeared. And now you're giving a bunch of carries to a guy that's averaging 4 yards a carry, which is very pedestrian among NFL standards. Um, and it just doesn't it's you're not getting the returns anymore that you were when he was going off in 2019 and 2020. So look, the NFL changes fast. I know that's only a few years ago now, but things change fast, especially for running backs. And I think the Titans moving Henry removed some of that crutch that they used to be run pass, which everyone
Well, like,
hates.
isn't it the whole complaint has been, well, the team is run pass. They're not modern enough. Well, it's because the best player on their team
Yeah,
the last 2 years is Derrick Henry, right?
right.
So if you don't want to be run pass, and if you want to be a modern offense, you there is you can't have both at this point. You cannot have both. This is why with the Cowboys, they have not reached anything of note because they relied too much on Ezekiel Elliott when they should have been giving it to Tony Pollard 90% of the time and letting Dak Prescott pass it. They're not. It's just not the way to do it anymore, and it sucks because I mean, obviously, right here, Alabama football signed by Nick Saban. I am an Alabama fan, obviously, with this hat and this podcast. I am a Titans fan, but objectively, unlike McElroy 11, I could take off the two-tone glasses, I could take off the crimson glasses, and say that the best thing was for Derrick Henry to actually get traded shortly after Christian McCaffrey got traded. And the best thing now is for him to get traded to pick up draft picks. And just, I don't think it's like you're tanking if you get rid of Derrick Henry. You're just getting younger, right? Like you're just getting younger. I want all the wide receivers, and we can get into it right now. I want the wide receivers to be young. I want them to grow together. Just fuck it. Like, I don't need old ass wide receivers. I don't need slow ass wide receivers. I want young wide receivers. I want young running backs. I want a young quarterback, and I want a young tight end to pair with Chicago. I want to get younger because I know that buys you time to build a team that gets you to the Super Bowl, because that's what the Bengals have done, right? I mean, that's what the Chiefs have done is they get younger, they don't get older.
Right, exactly. And if you look at where Rand Carthon came from, obviously the Niners, here are their leading rushers each of the last, let's see, 6 years since Kyle Shanahan's been there. Carlos Hyde, Matt Breida, Raheem Mostert, Jeff Wilson, Elijah Mitchell, and then this year it was McCaffrey, obviously. But most of those guys were nobodies. And they have been one of the best rushing offenses in the league each and every year. You do not have to have an elite running back to have a great
And
rushing
getting
offense.
younger is not tanking.
No, it's not.
That is
To be
not the
honest,
same thing.
it's definitely not, because the worst thing you can be is old and bad, right? Like, and that's where the Titans are headed offensively and where they were last year. I mean, they were old and bad. They had an older running back, they had an older quarterback, they had an older receiver and Robert Woods, they had an older offensive line with Ben Jones and Taylor Lewan and all these guys. They were old and bad, and they are trying to get younger and faster, and hopefully better. That is obviously the goal. But yeah, you're right. Like, and again,
I
I
just
don't
rather
think
get younger. Like I get it that there is some value to have like a Marvin Jones or someone like in the locker room to kind of like say, "Hey, this is how you should do it."
right.
Really to me and to Vrabel's point, Vrabel when he showed up in 2017, 2018, he said, "I don't really expect the leaders to step up or there to be like defined leadership. Your leaders step up will define how you do things." And really, the coaches should be the one defining it. This is how you train. This is what you need to do. Follow this. Do it. So in my mind, I'm thinking, isn't it better for the Titans to just get younger at this point and then build up a roster that can build cohesion every year? Sure, it's not going to look pretty at the beginning of the year, but that's okay. At least it's fucking exciting, right? Like, I guess that's where I'm at right now. I think I would rather have exciting football than the same old football we've watched the last 2 seasons.
I agree. No, I totally agree. And I don't think it's, again, like, I don't think it's tanking. I think it's just smart team building because,
Yeah.
look, they are not, I don't think they're going to win the Super Bowl this year. I don't think they're really a contender this year. I mean,
At
maybe they'll
least
end
make it
up,
exciting for everybody, right?
yeah, I mean, maybe if you keep all these old guys around, you still hang in there and compete for the AFC South or whatever. But this is not, it's not going to be a good offense to me in 2023. So to me,
Oh, it's going to be good because I'm going to tell you how it's going to be good.
give me
Oh,
guys that
yeah.
are going to be here in 2024 and are going to be good in 2024. Let's start building the foundation for this offense for the next generation of this offense, right? For whatever
Right.
it looks like with the new quarterback, with the new running back, with the new wide receivers, with the Chigakonkwo as the focal point at the tight end
Right.
room, with Dillard or whoever else ends up on this offensive line long term. Start focusing on building that group together.
Okay, so this is a good jumping off point to go to our next topic, and this will be real quick. Mortgaging the future. Do you think, okay, because there's 2 different ways of looking at how mortgaging the future is, but going up and getting, we've always been, if that's your guy, go get your guy. Because I have people that get in my mentions that say, you can't trade up for a quarterback, you're mortgaging your future. And I say, why is it mortgaging the future? Because you're giving up what? 2 players in the first round in the future that are draft picks and maybe another pick, right? So, like, why is that mortgaging? And then, of course, they don't reply. One of them being Paul Karski. He has failed to reply, and I'm still waiting on his reply from last week.
I'll let
So,
him know.
yeah, please let him know. Why is that mortgaging the future when really your future is mortgaged when you don't have a franchise quarterback? And while Tannehill could be a quarterback that wins you a Super Bowl because he is that level of quarterback, he is not a franchise quarterback. So if you're of the opinion that he's not a franchise quarterback, then your future, you are basically living in a $70,000 house that has no running water. So if you really are trying to improve that house, you need to flip it. And part of flipping that is to get the franchise quarterback. So why do you think that trading up for a franchise quarterback necessarily mortgages the future, or is it just really the right investment?
No, like I do think it is investing in your future, right? Because there's no more valuable asset than a rookie quarterback who is good on a rookie deal. Like there's no more valuable asset in the entire NFL. And if you are convicted that, in like this is what we get back to every single time when we talk
Yep.
about this thing, is if the Titans are convicted that one of those 4 guys at the top, or 5 guys if you want to throw in Hooker, are that guy, that they are that guy, they will be a top 5, top 10 quarterback within their rookie contract. Go trade whatever it takes to go get them. Go get them.
Right.
Like I don't care what it is.
Oh, but Mike, that first round quarterback next year could be a boat.
I mean, could be a boat. But that's the thing. I mean, we have no idea where they're going to end up drafting next year. For all we know, they could say they hit on the quarterback, or hell, let's say they sit pat and they take Jackson Smith and Jigba. And look, Jackson Smith and Jigba
Oh,
turns out to be Justin Jefferson 2.0, right? And
oh,
Treylon Burks takes the next step. Ryan Tannehill reverts to
oh
2019
yeah.
form, and they go nuts, right? They
Oh
go
yeah.
13-4. They win the division,
Talk
and
dirty
they're
to me.
drafting 26 next
I
year.
love it.
I got you a little hot there.
You got me a little. We went a little X-rated.
the like you're drafting 26 next year, right? Like you're not going to get the quarterback then. Like you're not going to be anywhere
Now with the
close to breaking
Texans,
that.
if they don't draft a quarterback, right? If the Texans don't draft a quarterback, guess what? They have next year 2 first-round picks.
Right. So look, you're going to have to trade up to get a quarterback at some point, unless your theory is that the Titans are going to be so bad that they're going to be either the first or second pick next year, right? Like that's the only way you're going to get a first round quarterback, like a top prospect, without trading away multiple draft picks. Like it's just the reality of the situation. So if you are against them trading away multiple draft picks to go get a quarterback, I just don't understand it, because you're going to have to do it at some point. Now, if your argument is that you don't think any of the quarterbacks in this class are worth it, I can understand that. I can, but we also do this thing where, like, a year from now, like Caleb Williams and Drake May, because like we aren't nitpicking them to death right now and looking at all of their little miniature flaws or
Every
stats that,
fucking
or
year. You
we,
have
we
to understand that, right?
we
Like,
yeah, we hold them out as like, oh, look, Caleb Williams and Drake May, they're these beautiful, perfect prospects. If we just wait another year, they'll fall right into our laps and we'll have the guy that's the best quarterback of all time. That's just, I mean,
and
I
next
like
year,
those
all we're going to
guys.
talk about is like Caleb Williams has the attitude problem, and then Drake May, he's just too young. He's not really what you need. He's not
Or Drake
developed
May
yet.
gets hurt during the season, and all of a sudden you're like, is he going to be durable enough? Is he too skinny? Like, there's going to be something that pops up with one of these guys that we can nitpick to death and find a flaw in. So the idea that you're just going to, that next year it's just going to be a treasure trove of flawless quarterback prospects, it's just not true. You're going to have to pick somebody that you're
Because like
comfortable
last year,
with their
okay, so
flaws.
last year I think you and I think we can say we're a little bit higher on the draft class prospects than most people, because we were high on
Yes,
Desmond Ritter. We liked Malik Willis. I personally like Sam Howell
I like
more than
Pickett.
Kenny
Yeah.
Pickett. Yeah. And then everybody last year was like, yeah, but Anthony Richardson, Will Levis, blah 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 blah. And there's a couple of guys that I only remember. I don't
There
even think they're
was
in.
that
Uh,
left-handed guy from Brennan Armstrong
oh
and
yeah, Brendan
Jake
Armstrong was in there.
Hayner,
Yeah,
and yeah,
all these guys. And now all anybody wants to do is nitpick Bryce Young's size, which, hey, guess what? He was the same fucking size last year when everybody was talking about being the number 1 overall pick. CJ Stroud, they're nitpicking him, even though I would say that they're less nitpicking him at this point. He's kind of like the rare guy that moves up. Nitpicking Will Levis. They're nitpicking Anthony Richardson. They're nitpicking everybody in this draft class. And guess what? They're going to nitpick everybody next year. So at this point, it's almost like you just have to watch. I am sorry, and I know I could be extremely wrong. I do not want Will Levis in Titans blue. And really, I am going to go back to trusting my gut. I'm going to go back to trusting the tape. I'm out on CJ Stroud. And I'm going
see,
to go
this
back to
is
trust. I'm going to trust
yeah,
the gut.
this is where I
And
cannot disagree
I
with you
know.
more.
I am Bryce Young or Anthony Richardson, and Anthony Richardson is a newly developed. I mean, obviously, watching Anthony Richardson this year has developed my opinion of him. I am saying swing for the fences or go for Bryce Young. Like, that's where I'm at. Like, if neither of those guys are there, I don't want Hendon Hooker, I don't want CJ Stroud, and I don't want Will Levis. I know that's an unpopular opinion. I know that sounds crazy, but at some point, you just have to trust the tape. And if you put CJ Stroud behind in this team, I don't know if he has the other talent like Justin Fields or an Anthony Richardson or Lamar Jackson to overcome and create plays.
Oh, I
I
think he's
just
a
don't
very
believe it.
different type of quarterback. Yeah, I don't think he's the same as those guys by any means. I think, and I think that's where his weakness is, right? Is that he's not a huge playmaker. He's not a big time runner, any of that stuff. However, I think what he does well is he makes plays on time. He gets the ball out quickly. He gets the ball accurately into the hands of his playmakers, and he gets out of the way, right? And that is a way to play quarterback. And look, I'm not comparing him to him, but that is the way Tom Brady dominated this league for years and years, was that he was able to operate his offense quickly. That's why he never got sacked. That's why his offensive lines always look great, because Tom Brady was on time, like every play, and would put the ball accurately in the hands of his playmakers. So I think there is still room for a quarterback to win that way in the NFL, even if that's not really the way that a lot of the newer age quarterbacks are, because I think, I think Stroud has some mobility, but I don't think he's anywhere near as mobile as Josh Allen or Hurts, or even he might be as mobile as Mahomes, but Mahomes just has that slippery playmaker
So
ability
where
about
does it
him.
end though? That's like you look at CJ Stroud, who was wildly inconsistent besides the Georgia game. Like you're banking on.
Wildly inconsistent is
You
a
don't
lot.
think he was?
You don't think Anthony Richardson was wildly inconsistent?
Oh, but he definitely was. But we're talking about 1 year starter. Like I know personally, deep down inside, that if I am going for Anthony Richardson, I'm going for potential. So this is a good conversation. We're going to skip the little draft position by round thing. I want to get into this. I'm gonna talk to you through this. So on my way from the golf course to here, despite what Hillbilly Bryn thinks that I'm some Jaguars fan, I'm just a golfing fan. So I was golfing. I had this epiphany. Okay. What if Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, Will Levis, Hendon Hooker, Anthony Richardson are all just basically mirror copies of Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, Josh Rosen, Lamar Jackson, blah, blah, blah. So here's why I say that. So let me make my comparisons real quick. Baker Mayfield, undersized, piss poor attitude. But you take Bryce Young, and he's a better version of Baker Mayfield, who went number 1 overall, and he's a little bit he's way more undersized than Baker Mayfield, but has a fantastic attitude and way more arm talent, and I think he's a better quarterback. So he's Baker Mayfield. He goes number 1 overall. Isn't CJ Stroud a little bit more like Sam Darnold in terms of he's got the arms, he's like the prototypical quarterback, and you put him on a team and he's going to start seeing ghosts. He's not going to have the wide receivers that he had in Ohio State. They're going to get open and he's going to struggle making decisions. That's kind of what I feel like. Obviously, Will Levis is Josh Rosen, by the way.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like that's a stretch to make those like 1-to-1 comps across the whole draft class. But I mean,
well,
like,
that's why
look,
I like
not,
said like
I'm
the seeing ghosts.
I'm not 100% sure that Stroud's going to work out. Like I'm not 100% sure that any of these guys are going to work out, but I'm more confident in Stroud being a high-end quarterback than I am in Richardson or Levis or Hooker.
Really?
Yes.
So
Yes.
what were you going to say? Were you say Young?
No. I think to me, like, Stroud and Young have always been kind of like 1A, 1B for me in some order, and like I almost go back and forth on like by the day as far as like it's like depends on like the mood you catch me in, which one I'm going to be like more in favor of that day.
Today's a Stroud day, by the way.
Yeah. It's Stroud Wednesdays over here. But Richardson, and I've said this before too. It's not that I'm totally against Richardson. I just think like if you break down the odds of like what this guy's career is going to be like at the NFL level, Richardson might have like the highest probability of all 5 of them of being like at some point he's going to be considered the best quarterback in the NFL, or like
he's going to be a Lamar Jackson MVP, right? Like that's kind of what I feel like.
Like maybe he has the best odds of that, but I feel like he also has like the biggest odds of just like outright bust, right? Like that he is just not good. He can't figure it out. He can't learn to, play from the pocket to, consistent enough degree. He can't be accurate enough. I feel like he has like the biggest bust potential too. So like he's the big swing and miss guy to me. Like he's totally boom or bust. I feel more confident that you're going to have at least an acceptable return on Young and Stroud. Now, like if they want to swing for the fences, I'm not opposed to Richardson. I would hate to trade up for him though, considering the risk involved. Because yeah, that is one where if you trade up and you give up 3 first-round picks for this guy and he just can't get over 56 percent completion percentage or whatever for his career, that is a big time setback for the franchise, because then you're out of the quarterback sweepstakes for the next couple years, and you're looking at like 2026 before you're able to take another swing at a quarterback. So that would be where the concern would be for me in trading up for Richardson. I think at least if you get Stroud, you're almost guaranteed like a minimum of, he's going to be, I feel like baseline, like another Ryan Tannehill, like you're going to be able to have like successful teams if you surround him with good players. I struggle with Richardson, honestly, as a trade up candidate at 11, maybe you could, I'm fine,
Let's go, baby. Let's trade up to 3 for Anthony Richardson. I'm all in. I'm all in on Anthony Richardson. Just fuck it. Just trade up to 3 for Josh Allen. Okay, so speaking of trading up, just real quick, I just want your answer. Just real quick. Would you rather give up obviously, in both scenarios I'm about to give you, the Titans pick swap from 11 to 1? So would you rather give up 2 future first-round picks with the possibility of a second or third? Let's say a third in this year's draft class, second in a future draft class, okay?
Yeah.
Or would you rather give up a first, one first in the future, but multiple picks in this draft? Which one do you think is actually mortgaging the future more?
I'd probably rather trade the future picks, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I am too. I'm like, just trade them all. Like, fuck them.
Yeah, because you don't know where those picks are going to be. But also, like, I mean, this team does need some reinforcements, and I think even if you took your quarterback, you still want to go get like some wide receiver help for him. You want to get an offensive lineman to kind of plug in there. And look, I mean, there's a reason teams discount the value of future picks, and that's because you can't use them for a little while. So, to me, I'd always rather trade the future picks than
I'm with you
right now.
The Titans, the way they're currently constructed, the reason why it's not mortgaging the future is because the future is now. If you're trading up for a quarterback, the future is now. You need the picks. I would rather get rid of I'd rather get rid of the first round picks in future years than get rid of picks in this draft, because you're really kind of like cutting off your nose to spite your face if you do it now. Like if you trade up for this draft pick, but give away a bunch of draft picks in this draft. And I think that is the most unlikely scenario considering on draft history. Okay, so I'm going to ask you a heat check. Are the Titans going to trade up?
I'm going to say no.
Okay. I'm going to say yes. But I'm not saying that they're trading up to 3. I'm just saying they're trading up. Okay. Quinnen Williams gets paid more than Jeffrey Simmons.
Yes, 100%.
Do we want to base this off APY signing APY. Bonus? Oh, we're going to base this off not total value? You don't want to do total value?
No, because then you're bringing years into play. Like,
all right, APY.
Like if he signs a 3-year deal or a 5-year deal, it could swing it.
Okay. I will say yes, but like it's like not 25. It's like 23.
No, yeah, I think it's like $1 million or so more.
All right, we're gonna say yes for now. Both. I'm keeping track with the scoreboard here. Dexter Lawrence will get paid more APY.
I'm gonna say no. I'm gonna say no, but I'm so tempted to go over.
All right. Okay. Will Byard be on this team by the start of the 2023 season? You don't have to say cut or trade. Just saying, will he be on the team?
I'm going to say yes.
Okay. I'm going to say yes as well. Will Derrick Henry?
I'm going to say no.
Damn it. Okay. Will Tannehill?
You were going to say no on that one too?
Yeah. Will Tannehill?
Yeah, I'm going to say yes on Tannehill.
I'm going to say no on Tannehill. So we only differ on I think they're going to trade up, and Ryan Tannehill is going to be gone. So,
Which those are kind of related, right? You
yeah.
think they're going to trade up for a quarterback, and I guess if they did, they could either. But I almost
I think
think
you got to start Anthony Richardson. I just think that's the best way to
you
do
just
it.
got to throw them out there year
Just throw
one,
him out there.
no training wheels.
Yeah. Well, we'll check in next week on these if they haven't been decided. Keep the scoreboard updated. Bluegrass Beverages. Thank you for bearing with us. But Bluegrass Beverages is our sponsor. Hendersonville, Tennessee. Been around since the 70s. Join the in crowd. They have a great, luxurious, and spacious store. Go get your liquors over at Bluegrass Beverages. And if you're in East Nashville or in Nashville in general, go over to Sinkers in Nashville. Go to a football show on Monday's show and Thursday's show and get the link and go sign up to join us for the draft show. All the proceeds go to a charity that supports kids. Cannot remember the name of the charity, but it's something that Braden does where they feed soup to the kids or something. But it goes to charity for the kids. And then you'll get all you can eat, all you can drink. You come hang out with us. And on top of that, join the in crowd because there's going to be special beverage selections that you are going to get in your inbox every week. And on top of that, you are going to be entered into a secret concert coming later. So it's just secret concert coming later. I feel like the draft is next week. I felt like that all week, and I've been told today that is not next week. That's how long this offseason feels, but I love this offseason.
So
StackingTheInbox.com. Go there today and read about Jaden Reed, who I am just utterly convinced that he is going to be a Tennessee Titan. I just cannot shake it. And we'll talk more about that next week. Go to paulkarski.com and read more sexual fan fiction about Jackson Smith and Jigba by Mike Herndon.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Pay for that little bit of extra for that little secret saucy Jackson Smith and Jigba draft profile. For Mike Herndon at Mike Herndon NFL, I'm Zach Lyons. You can follow me on Twitter at FWordsPod. This has been Football and Other F Words, and you have just been effed.